there's a 6-game road trip up ahead. And one of the points the last point I wanted to make about the bench, especially probably I would expect Lyles and Davis in particular. You're going on a 6-game road trip in 10 or 9 or 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 6 guys off the bench that play very well. You have an opportunity to be able to kind of like alternate here, use some fresh legs to your advantage off the bench. And so you don't see Lyles or Davis play in the first 2 games or 3 games, but once that back-to-back starts lingering in everybody's mind, you might see, kind of a switch there, and that might be able to. This kind of like, I guess, highlights the depth that might work to their advantage, because they've got a tough trip here that if you had to just look at it and be really honest, a lot of people are like, ooh, they probably go 2-4 on this trip, just because they play some really good teams, and you also got Detroit and the Knicks in there. But I don't know. Interesting point about the bench, some fresh legs, but also just looking ahead at this trip. What are you thinking about it? You think 2-4 is too down in the dumps? You think they can go 3-3 or pull out a winning record here?
I think they can go 3-3. Like you said, they should be able to win those Knicks and Pistons games, just the way they've been playing as of late. And I don't know, the Bucks game is going to be rough, and so is that Sixers game. But I mean, they already beat the Cavs once this year. Yeah, I was at home, but I can see them pulling out. I can see them pulling out one between the Bucks, Cavs, and Sixers. Just the way this isn't the same Kings anymore. I'm not thinking about the Kings like, oh yeah, like trying to be optimistic. Like optimistic last year on this stretch was 2-4. And to be clear, the schedule is the Bucks on Wednesday, Cavs on Friday, Knicks on Sunday, Sixers Tuesday, Raptors Wednesday. I missed the Raptors, and then Pistons Friday. So, and I think they can beat the Raptors as well. I mean, they're a good team, so I think you can go. I think you can pull off 3-3. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you definitely can. I think just to start with that game against the Bucks, it's interesting because the last game of the last real road trip, was against the Celtics, and the Celtics showed the Kings what a contender looks like when they put it all together for 4 quarters and really just put the knife to your neck there at the end. It'll be interesting to see what they do on the first game of this road trip against another championship, level team, the Eastern Conference champion and world champion of a couple of years ago. So that'll be interesting, and I think that the Kings will be able to perform pretty well in that game. I think it's the first game of the road trip, 2 days off. Obviously, they have to travel, but there's 2 days off. They should be kind of. I mean, they'll have the fullest tank that they will on this 9-day trip. So that could be fun. But I mean, can they make it a game? Can they win it? Can they not repeat what happened in Boston? I think that'll be a really interesting thing. Because if they win that game, then it's just like, oh man, you're off to a great start on that road trip, and it's like 3-3 is now like baseline.
Yeah, exactly. You can push 4-2 at that point.
Yeah, and then it's like if they play the Bucks and lose, but they play pretty well, and 2-4 might sound like decent. You might start like walking away being like, well, at least you won a couple. I don't know. The expectations could really, like, for the whole road trip, could kind of be contingent on this first game in a way. So it'll be interesting.
I see it.
And then you got
Cleveland to start off, right?
Yeah, and then you got Cleveland, who you beat on your home floor. They're gonna bring it. They're still really, really good. You got the Knicks off a 1-day arrest. A nice matinee for us on the West Coast. And, we'll see what happens there. That'll be a kind of an opportunity to win, but those are always the toughest ones. Then you got your back-to-back, Philadelphia and Toronto. That seems like that sucks.
Yeah, that's a rough back-to-back.
That's not fun. And then you got Detroit. And again, it's like that's another... Obviously, they're not nearly as good as the Cavaliers, but the Pistons got beat on your home floor, and they played. They made it a game, and that was interestingly enough, like right before the Kings went on their road trip. This will be the last game of the road trip. The Kings will be kind of itching to get home. It might have that same kind of potentiality for something kind of bad to happen, but this has been highlighted as probably one of the two tough, because they have another one at the end of January into February that's tough too. But this is right there, man. This is difficult, especially when you start off with the Bucks and the Cavaliers.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough East Coast road trip. A lot of good teams. You're playing 4 playoff teams at the moment, and then the Knicks and the Pistons. So, and then a couple of those, the Raptors and was it the back-to-back with the Raptors and the
76ers?
Yeah.
So you go from
that's going to be
Philly to Toronto.
I have hope in 3-3. I hope Fox can really get back on track, because they're gonna need him to start scoring like 25 plus like he was doing before he got sick. That's gonna be key for sure. Sabonis gonna have some good matchups. He's gonna go against Embiid. He's gonna go against why am I blanking? Is there
you got
I tell you what. Okay, maybe that was it. I mean, I think Siakam's playing the center this year, right?
I have no idea what they're doing in Toronto. But
yeah, I really don't either.
They figure it out. They do pretty well.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll see some KZ Okpala tomorrow against Giannis. That seems like a KZ game over a Trey Lyles game, right?
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting to see how they can try to handle.
Yeah, it's
one of the toughest guards in history in terms of
to
protect the guy. It's like, but we're talking about this team playing cohesively as a unit. Maybe that's the best approach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's gonna be definitely the hardest game, just because the Bucks are the best team on that trip.
And to your point earlier, that's really one. Like you're saying, with all of the games on this road trip, but particularly that first one against such a good player and team, a Fox becomes a huge X factor.
He needs to pick it up. He needs to.
Yeah, you're on another floor. You can kind of get away with it. You score 16 or 18 on the home floor, and the fans are going nuts, and everybody's just got a bunch of energy.
Right.
When nobody's kind of in your corner there, and everything's riding against you. Fox. It's kind of imperative that he kind of shows up. And I think that's kind of the setting, hopefully, too, if he's feeling better, which he seemed to have a little bit better energy, interestingly enough, in the second game of the back-to-back, in both games of the back-to-back. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. He's definitely a guy to watch, as always.
Yes. He's. I mean, as we're gassing up Sabonis earlier in this podcast, saying he's the best player, but it doesn't mean Fox is any less valuable. Like, they both need to be on this road trip if they want to win some of these games. And I think they can do 3-3, but these guys have to be playing, their best basketball. It all starts with both of them. It starts with both. So
it's just hard to get away. It's hard to get away from that fact that it's just like it's a 2-man foundation.
Yeah, exactly. Everything comes off of those two, so we'll see. Tough road trip, but I'm gonna say 3-3. I guess we'll talk in 2 weeks and
well, let's start with the first 3.
Yeah,
because
first 3.
Last week we came off of 3 straight losses. This week we're coming off of 3 straight wins. What are we going to be coming off of next week?
So we have it's
going to be Bucks, Cavs,
Knicks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say 1-2.
That's fair.
And then
I'm gonna say they win that game in Milwaukee, lose in Cleveland, and beat the Knicks. I'm gonna go real optimistic because I feel like this defense is rolling, especially if they can beat Milwaukee to start. I mean, then that just that really sets the tone for the whole road trip and even just this first 3 games of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Cleveland's going to be tough. I just don't know if they can win that game. I just feel like Cleveland's going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, I feel that too. Cleveland, they're not going to want to lose those twice, especially on their home court. So,
although that'll be Mike Brown's first game as a head coach there in some time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I didn't even think about that.
So that'd be interesting. Yeah, no, I had a star next to it from like the beginning of the season when I was like highlighting game. What are going to be big games? And I highlighted that one. Mike Brown's return. I couldn't figure it out though. I'm like, why has this got a star next to it?
I didn't even think about it either. Yeah, I guess Mike Brown is returning. So that'll be fun. That'll mean a lot to him, and hope the crowd gives him a nice applause. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough game for sure. Tough. It's just a tough stretch. I'm gonna say it again. That's like we said, it's one of our hardest stretches of the year. So 3-3, calling it here. 1-2, and then they're somehow gonna beat the Pistons, and then I think they can take the Sixers. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. But I would love for it to be 2-1, like you said. But we'll see.
That's up to them.
That's up to them. That
all they can do is listen to us and execute.
But they listen to this on their plane ride over.
Yeah, it's a long one. I don't know how long the flight is to Milwaukee.
Yeah, probably an hour 15, just like this podcast.
That's right.
Yeah,
they could probably squeeze in a few if they're falling behind.
Yeah, exactly.